I hope this message finds you well. I just was listening to the audiobook A World Made New by Paul Selig. The audiobook was just released, I don't know, within the last month, maybe. Be that as it may. While I was listening to the audiobook, one second. Thank you. Sorry, I have a dog friend who is wanting my attention. Anyway, as I was listening to this audiobook, some dots were connected for me that should have been very obvious. And I've kind of been grappling with this for, probably a week or two. I was reintroduced to Ashiana Dean's work recently. I was inspired to go there. I read either the first Voyager book or maybe the first two some years ago. It may have been during the whole COVID thing when I started really seeking for other versions of the truth that would make sense to me. So anyway, I did look at her work back then, and it does have some really, really good information in it. Now, as I'm listening to the book by Paul Selig, the guides, and that's also a channeled text. It is the third book in the manifestation series, I want to say, but it's the very latest one that has come out now. This is September of 2024, so just came out. The revelation, the dots that connected for me are this. Ashiana Dean speaks of original sin, and original sin, she doesn't speak of it a lot, but she has lectured, has been included in her lectures, that the original sin was when the 12th dimensional Stargate was destroyed. And for any of you that aren't familiar with Stargates or the concept of Stargates, very science fiction-y, but whatever. So she explains a lot of data that is not really my interest, but what she's speaking of are Stargates. This would be like a portal that allows certain frequencies to be part of our earthly experience, okay? So she was speaking of original sin as when these Stargates that allowed this 12th dimensional frequency to be part of our experience, when this was taken from the earth. So taken from, these are just words, but according to Ashiana Dean, those portals were destroyed. Then, and then this was like, when she was speaking of this was like back in 2001. Yes, and I believe they have been restored. I don't know when, but I believe they have been restored. And the reason I say that, I'm sorry, I'm digressing all over the place. Let me get back to this. So she speaks of original sin being the point when those frequencies, the 12-dimensional frequencies, were not able to be part of our experience anymore here on this planet. Now, interestingly, this is, I believe, called the Christos energy. So would be like the Christ energy. It makes a lot of sense when I start to connect the dots, because, the life of the one we call Jesus, being born here, was to bring frequency, among other things, yes, bring this back to the planet. So, it was about planting the seeds to allow this frequency to become part of our earthly experience. And it has taken over 2,000 years for that to culminate. And many other, not just Jesus, but many other influences that have been working towards this, including you and me and everyone else that's here. So anyway, back to this. So she says the original sin, and she points to this being the original sin when this frequency was no longer available to us. And why this makes sense is A Course in Miracles teaches, and there are all kinds of texts out here, all kinds of concepts and ideas and philosophies and theories and whatever. But what I will say is, from my understanding, the original sin is the point when we believed we were separate from God. Now, why this makes sense, based on what Ashayana Dean is saying, because if that energy, that frequency was taken from us, that we couldn't access it, we absolutely would feel separate from God. That would be the first point. So if the 12th dimensional frequency, and I don't know that I'm even making the right labels here, so please forgive me, but if the 12th dimensional frequency was not available to us, we wouldn't be able to tap into that level of Christedness, or to feel that level of Christedness around us, within us, etc., working through us, right? So I won't say that. Yeah, pretty much. I think it's everyone. So now how would Jesus do it? I don't know. I haven't really gotten that far yet. This is now just the elementary of it. It's just now become clear. So yes, when those portals were destroyed, or when that frequency was no longer available to us, this would be considered original sin. It's not really sin, but what the Bible speaks of the fall of man, the original sin. And the fall was simply feeling separate from God, forgetting that we are the aspect of God in form, that we are at our core that divine spark. So you can, and okay, so I'm being asked to speak about, it is one thing to know, to believe, not to know, to believe an idea. It is another thing to know an idea being true, to know experientially. So I can sit here and say we are God at our core. We are the divine child of God. So we are fractals, in a sense, of that one. So it's like at our perfect state, in our perfect state, we are a replica of our Creator. We were created in the image of God. Having said that, it's one thing to say we are this. It's another thing to feel it, to realize it. And that can only happen through experience, experiencing that. So if that frequency, that Christ frequency, is not available to us for whatever reason, then we wouldn't be able to know experientially that we are that. So this just validates an aspect of Ashayana Dean's teachings and how it connects with the things I already know to be true. And so I was very excited about that, and why it came now while I was listening to Paul Selig's latest book, I'm sure has to do with the fact that the energies are very similar. And I don't mean the material is similar, it's not. But the energies bringing through the material are very similar. So that really high level frequency, maybe 11, maybe 12D, I don't know. Very, very high level frequencies. And I believe that is why these connections were made for me while I was listening to this book today. Just because that energy is that very high level energy. And at that level, at that level of frequency, the information that is available is different than the information available at the lower frequencies. And I have spoken about this before in an experiential way. So I've said whatever frequency you're holding, so whatever frequency I can hold within this form, I will have experiences within that frequency. And I think there are varying degrees of a frequency, so levels within a frequency. And Ashiata Dean has a lot of information about this that again, the data is not really my thing. I'm more about the way it feels and how that translates. So, but she has a lot of, technical information that just isn't, really my forte. So, but having said that, today as these dots were connected for me, I really feel like there is something there. If you are of the mind that those things are interesting to you, that is going to be a great source of information. I do believe a lot of that, at least the history of how things happened here, I do believe a lot of that is very accurate. So I hope this message finds you well, in peace and in love. May you be blessed.